Let's get back to shading, which I'm sure you've all gotten more comfortable with by now, but still be sure to keep looking for the flow of the shapes in your shadows, as well as your lines. For example, though the eyelid ends, its shape and shading continues all the way to the plane of the nose. Define the shadow being cast by the eyelashes. Make sure that your shading here is indicating the curve in this shape. And I'll move to the eyebrows next. Although this looks like a solid shape, it's best to build it up by drawing the eyebrow hairs. Doing it this way will help create a nice texture and avoid letting it look flat. And don't worry about drawing in these stray hairs until later. They'll just get lost in the rest of the shading you're going to be building up. I know I've explained that before, maybe in less detail, but there's so much information to retain in this course, so each time I repeat an instruction, I try to expand on it a little more. My hope is that the repetition helps you remember, and hearing more about the process helps keep it interesting. Make sure you retain this highlight. All you can do is work around it. Don't try to leave it for the sharpened eraser. It won't be able to create lines that fine. I'm going to work on the midtones next, so I'll switch to a B-lead. Pay attention to the actual value of the upper eyelid. Those dark eyelashes can fool your eye into thinking the area is actually darker than it really is. If you look closely, it's even lighter than the area above it that I just shaded in. Notice there's a highlight here and here on the right. If you can see a highlight in the eyeball, the light source is affecting the eyelid as well. So you should see a row of highlights rippling outward from each highlight in the eye. Going up, even that highlight in the eyebrow. And you should see the same effect going downward. Can you see them? As you can see, I've switched back to a 2B lead to darken the shadow above the eyelid. This plane can get a couple of values darker as well. And back to a B-lead for the midtones on the plane of the side of the nose. I'm just going to make a very light outline around the highlight. I could have even switched to an H-lead for this. I'm going to use my sharpened eraser to make sure it intrudes into the shape of the iris. That's going to help create the appearance of a glare and make the eye look wet. The white part of the eye is actually pretty dark on this side, maybe even fourth value, so I'm going to start with my B-lead. There's a highlight down here that I'm just going to shade right over and get it later with my sharpened eraser. This hard lead will fill in any texture left behind by the B pencil. Can you tell that these dark spots I'm shading in right now are actually shadows from the eyelashes? Always identify what you're drawing so you can treat it appropriately. Attention to detail like that is what will take your drawings to the next level. This highlight is so small that I have to erase the area around it, then go back in with an H-lead to redefine its edge. Next, I'll move to the lower eyelid and put in some lighter values with the H-LED. Even though some of the areas seem like highlights, like here, they're actually at least second or third value. If you look closely at the texture of this light area in the photo, you'll see little specks of highlights peppered in there. Don't try to draw them, just average the area out. If you're having trouble doing that, here's a helpful hint. To see the average value of an area, squint at it. Squinting takes all of the detail information out. Drawing super detailed skin texture falls under the category of hyperrealism, and we're not doing that in this course. And by the way, the people doing those drawings are using the exact same approach you're using right now. The trick to getting those textures is to simply work on a much larger scale. This wrinkle is light, but it's important to help capture her expression. Make sure you're using your H-LED for this and lightly hatch it in. That's good. Any darker than that and it's going to look like a unibrow. And there's a wrinkle up here beneath the eyebrow hair. Don't worry about losing the eyebrow hair texture. The texture from the H-LED will read as skin instead of hair because it's so different from the grain of the 2B LED. Be sure to hatch in a light value in the area between the eyes. It's important to make sure the only spots that are left white are the highlights. Just a reminder, I'm going over my shading using an H-LED because I want to smooth out the texture of the grain left behind from the 2B pencil. I'm going to do the same in the iris, and take this opportunity to really give attention to the details in there.